In this video, I'm going to show you how to fix this, and we're going to do it right now. Right about here, there used to be a half wall, and that was obviously taken out, and this is what's left, a hole in this corner. So I'm going to show you how I fix it, and this situation is unique to this house, but you might have something similar to this, and if you do, I hope the video helps. Let's get to it. So let's take a look at what we have here. So I'm going to resecure this drywall. I'm going to clean up this cut, put a new piece of drywall in here, do some corner bead, and it looks like this is a 2x4 on the flat. In fact, it definitely is, because here it is. And in this case, it is just a 2x4, no drywall, and it looks like they kind of mudded right over this. And you can see there's no corner bead right here. And that would be the reason, because I'm assuming that there's no tape or anything behind here, that this is all cracking all the way up. In fact, I can just take this with my hands and do that. So at the same time, I'm gonna try and fix this so that it won't crack in the future, all the way up to that up there. I'm gonna start by cutting a 2x3 to go in here, maybe a 2x4, so I can get far enough back here to attach it. And this is a 2x4 on the flat, so I shouldn't have to rip anything down. I can just turn it and put it in there. So take a measurement from here down to here, 39 inches. And if I really wanted to, I could take this all apart and redo this the quote unquote correct way, but I don't think I need to do that, and I think it's just gonna be more of a mess. So this is a patch, not a redo. I'll square an end. $39. So what I'll be able to do is tuck this in here and then get a 3-inch screw into here, and that will hold this drywall to this, and I'll get a little bit into here. I could sink it right in past this drywall and go even further. I think that is actually what I'll do, just so I know it's secure. Okay. Just a little tight, which is what I want. If it was loose, I could put a screw in here so that I can pull it out. I might have to do that if I don't get it perfectly lined up. I'm not gonna put it even with this. I'm gonna put it a 1/2 inch back so I can do drywall so it's the right way, and then I'll just patch this in. If you're doing something like this, it's a good idea to color match whatever paint this is. You could, for instance, cut it, well, I guess not here because this is a 2x4, but you could probably cut it with a razor knife and peel that off. Or you can take a chunk out of here if you're gonna be patching it. There is a little bit of a lip right here, just from previous joint compound, so I'm gonna cut that off. Don't worry, I'm not using my good chisel. I'm not worried about making this perfect either, because I'm gonna be mudding this whole thing. Now with that lip gone, I can hold this nice and flat and set it back a 1/2 inch. Because that is the thickness of the drywall. Because there is a stud right here, I was considering cutting this half on the stud, but I think this is close enough where this drywall won't move around, and that's the big thing about it, is you want the drywall to stay where it is, so after you tape it and mud it, there's no cracking. Might have gone too far. A little too far. Good. So now I'm going to run some 3-inch screws in. I pulled it all tight. Same thing down here. So that didn't pull in tight all the way. So if I take it back out and I put some pressure on it, I'll just hold the pressure there. And one in the middle. I have to put pressure on that too. Now we have a nice solid 2x4 to attach our drywall to. Before I put some new drywall here, I'm actually going to notch this up a little higher just to clean this up. So I'll go even with this. And wherever the drywall's sticking out, right here, I'm just going to cut that with a knife. Just cut it back so it will not impede on our repair. And then same thing with stuff like this. Just cut that back. Oops. Rather it be too much than not enough. Okay, I can clean this up and get a measurement for my sheet of drywall. So I'm just going to take a couple measurements for the width, and right here, 2 5/8 would work, but I'm actually thinking more like 2 1/2 would be better, just past this drywall that way, just so it won't mess up our corner bead. Again, 2 1/2, 2 1/2, 2 1/2 will work. And in case you're wondering, no, I don't have to fill this in. I could cut it back and make it pretty, but that corner bead will have enough to sit there and it'll all be covered up. So 2 1/2 by 41 1/8. 2 1/2, and I'll use a T-square to cut this. Then you turn the drywall around and carefully break it like that. And then you can cut the back. And you might have to clean this up. Let's use the knife like this. Good. 41 1/8. I'll just put this piece in and I'll hold it up. Make sure we have somewhat of a decent gap here and make sure it's set back, which it is, so we're good. So I'll use 1 1/4 drywall screws, and I actually have a drywall gun. You really don't need one, but I'll just put some screws in all the way down. And if you don't have a drywall gun, the only difference is when you attach this, you run this in like that and make sure that the head sinks in, but not so much that it breaks the paper. In fact, I'll show you one right here and a little further up because it's not going to matter. It's all going to be covered. So that is not far enough. That is about where you want to be. And that is too far. So don't do that. Do that. And then it's always a good idea for, you can see existing drywall. This is moving. So in order to tighten this all up and make sure that you're not going to have cracking in the future, I'm just going to put a couple screws in the existing drywall too. See how that sank in there a little bit? That's totally fine. Now I'm just gonna take my chisel and clean this up right here. I'm gonna basically overlap my corner bead. And if you don't know what corner bead is, I'll show you, don't worry. Clean that up just so it sits as flat as it can. I'm just gonna overlap it about 1 inch. Before I attach that corner bead, I'm just gonna put a couple screws in here to stop that from moving around. That's better. Corner bead. Get a measurement. We'll do 43 inches. This right here is corner bead. It's this metal that goes on the corner, and it has this nice round edge, and you do joint compound here and here and sand it, and it makes a nice corner. Try not to cut my tape. You cut one side, some snips like that, and flip it, cut the other, and then you might have to just wiggle it until it breaks off. When installing corner bead, I like to use 1 3/8" drywall nails. And just a couple tips here when you install this. You don't want to push this in too tight. For one, this will stick out too much and it'll take a bunch of mud to fill this in. You don't want it flat like that. You just want it out. So this is slightly less of an angle. Nail it like that. And then you end up filling in where that gap is. So again, you don't want to push it in tight like this, and you don't want it out like this, because you'll have to use a whole bunch of joint compound. And preferably you want it plumb here and here, but a lot of times you have to just go with what's here, or else this will look good and then the rest of it won't. You want to match what's here, basically. Just put it in like that. You see it can be moved around a lot. So just try and make it look as good as you possibly can. Up here, I'm gonna have to scrape this stuff to make it look nicer. Again, you could do corner bead all the way up, but just a patch. You can go right through this metal like this. Well, it's hard to tell, but right now, after putting that nail in, this is twisted. So I just want to bring it back like this, gently. I can use the smaller holes here too, making sure you get into a stud. And then just sink it in just a little bit. You want to make sure it's sunk in a little bit so that when you go to fill it, it won't be sticking out. So that's good. You just want to put enough nails in so that you don't have spots like this where that's loose. So starting at the top, make sure this isn't moving. I'm gonna clean this up with a taping knife, try and get all this stuff off of here best I can. I might need the chisel, something sharper. Just wanna get any of the loose stuff off, and if it was really sticking out like that was, I want that off too. There we go. Starting fresh. So here's an example of trying to match things and patch things. There could be all kinds of stuff wrong with this wall. This could be bowed out, which I think maybe is the case. And instead of tearing this all out to make this straight or plumb, we're gonna do this, because if I was to go any further up, matching what's down here gives you something like this. That's obviously not great. And if I was to push this in, you'd have all kinds of problems. And I sucked that in tight, so this is what it is. I'm just gonna fill this side and tape that so hopefully it doesn't crack anymore. Just fill in where I put the screws in and mud this down here. Because of the particular joint compound that I'm gonna be using, I'm gonna explain what I'm gonna do, and then I'm just gonna do it. I'll show you what I'm gonna be using in a minute, but before I go mixing it up, I wanna cut some pieces to go in here. I'm gonna be using this fiber fuse tape, and it's really nice. I haven't had any issues with it. As you put a layer on here and you sink it in and then scrape it in, it literally fuses the joint compound to this tape. It's really nice stuff, and it gets really thin, so you can get a really nice finish with it. So I basically want to put this over any seams, like this one right here, and I'm also going to put a piece over this corner bead, like this, just to help out. Up here, I think I can get away with doing one piece just like this, because remember, we're not messing with this corner. So I'm gonna pre-cut these pieces. Here, I'll start by putting it about right there is where I'll end it. I might do another piece up there, just a small one. I'll bring this down like this. And in fact, go all the way with this one, like that. You can be a little off the floor. There's gonna be baseboard down there. There's my one piece, another one right here. One more small one up here. Now I am actually going to take a piece of paper tape, just regular paper tape, and this I'm going to use right here. So this will kind of be a transition. I'll just load it up underneath and then fade it into this. And I think that's going to work. Obviously, the main benefit of having the corner bead here is if you're moving stuff around and you bump this is a lot more solid than, first of all, nothing, and paper tape. You really don't use paper tape on a corner. But in order to make this work, that's what we're gonna do. This is the joint compound that I'm gonna be using. This is Easy Sand 5, which means I have 5 minutes of working time with this until it starts to cure. There's Easy Sand 90, I believe there's Easy Sand 120, or you can get the premix stuff like this and just put a bunch of coats on it. It'll just take a while to dry. If you're just starting with something like this, I definitely don't recommend this. It's a pretty bold move with this much joint compound, but I'm gonna do it. So let's do it. Only mix up what you need, or what you think you need. Pre-fill this gap right here too. If you really wanted to make this solid, you could use something that's called Durabond, which cures very solid, almost like concrete, but you cannot sand that, so don't make any mistakes. Overfilling this too. I can grab the tape, get it in place, make sure it's covering those. seams right there. And I'm going to come back down here and put more joint compound here so the next piece of tape will stick. Make sure it goes on nice and flat. Scrape this clean so it gets nice and tight to the wall. Now, for the paper tape, hold it up here. Get it as tight as we can. At this point, I can kind of do one more light coat over that. Starting to dry up. It's starting to cure. It doesn't dry, it cures. It's a chemical cure. Feather this out a little bit. Just kind of scrape it. Oh, got a big thing in there. And then on this side, just want to fill this in. If this has imperfections, like this even, I'm okay with that. We're doing a couple coats. I'm gonna call that good. Let's try and clean up some of this. As long as I got no huge clumps sticking out, looks pretty good. Okay, now we wait. I ended up leaving this to set overnight because I didn't trust that it was set enough to put another coat on it. What can happen is you can start taking some of the dry stuff and it'll kind of re-wet it and make a mess as you're pulling it through here. So I decided to just leave it overnight, even though it's 5-minute mud. But I'm hoping I can put another thin coat on this and that will cure quickly enough that I can sand it out in maybe an hour. So if you take a look, all I want to do is, when I do this second coat, is feather the edges here, and I want to scrape all of the high stuff off of the corners like this, and just put another thin coat and just cover this tape just enough, and then we'll be careful sanding. I have a lot of other videos that go into more details about doing this kind of thing, joint compound. People call it taping and mudding, but I have a bunch of videos. I'll leave links in the description over to that. Okay, we're gonna sand this out. I recommend a mask, and I'm just gonna use a fine sanding sponge. It should be fine. Should be fine. I'm gonna start at the top and work my way down. Just try and make this smooth. I'm just gonna be gentle with these, with the corner. I'm gonna get the big clumps like this, because if you break them right off, you might end up with a hole right there, so just be careful. Still needs to cure a little bit here. You can see the difference in color. That's okay. You basically want to sand right down to the metal, right on this edge here. Okay. Let's prime it. I'm going to use this Zinsser water-based primer. This stuff works really well. All that's left is to do a coat of paint over this to match, do the baseboard, and all set. So, if you had to do something like this, I hope the video helps. Thanks for watching. We'll see you on the next one. I wasn't ready. You might have as well. Really? Probably not. Better not do that. Does that joke get old? And then, uh-oh, am I gonna be able to do it? What a hack job. Ow! Why don't you just talk normal, Matt? 2.5 by 41. Oops, that's okay. You know what? You know what, Lauren? Oh no! Cut that out, because that's dumb. Do not pass go. Do not collect $200. Definitely not a stud right there. Actually, there should be, because there's a stud there. Okay, cut all that out, what I was just saying. I'll just wait for Torin. I smash all that out of there. Straight, but even? What am I talking about?
No idea.
Let's try that again. Because of the joint Shut up. Don't laugh at me, Lauren. I'm trying my hardest. I know I said I wasn't gonna talk, but Laurenski. Race against time. Big mistake. Big mistake. Bubbles in the mud. Bless you! This is still wet. It's about 120 grit. Oh, look at that. That works. And if it's not cured yet, you can cheat. That's too hot. I just bubbled up the paint. I knew I should have brought a light. Does it? Does it, Matt? I'm gonna leave here. It's not my house. Just kidding, guys. Male Sugar Shack. Come on.